So we have another algebra machine here, but we can see that some of the boxes are empty. So before we can solve the equation, what we have to do is we have to fill in the missing phrases from the boxes. So we can see that we started here by inputting the variable x. Now the algebra side of things tells us that our next expression is x plus 3. So what that means is that my first step was to add 3. All right, let's look at my second step. After I added 3, I then divided by 5. So in here, I'm going to write divide by 5. Okay, let's see what happened next. I added 3, I divided by 5. The next thing I see here is a 4 out in front of that sum, which means that the whole entire sum was multiplied by 4. So my next step is to multiply by 4. Okay, now the next two spots are blank. So I can see down here that there's a -1 and that it was equal to 7. So after I multiplied by 4, what happened next was that I subtracted 1. So I'm going to write subtract 1, which means my new expression is 4 times the quantity x plus 3, all divided by 5, minus 1. And now, since I see that it equals 7, it means that I must output the number 7. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to use those steps in reverse to solve the equation. So what I mean is I'm going to work backwards and I'm going to do the inverse operations to solve my equation. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to recopy the equation. So I have 4 times the quantity x plus 3 all over 5 minus 1 is equal to 7. Now, when I work backwards, the first step I encounter is subtract 1. Now remember, we do the inverse operation, or the opposite. So instead of subtracting 1, I'm going to add 1 to both sides of this equation. That is going to leave 4 times the quantity x plus 3 all divided by 5 equals 8. Okay, let's keep going in our list. So after subtract 1, I come to multiply by 4. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the opposite, or the inverse of multiplying by 4, which is going to be to divide both sides by 4. Okay, so here we go. So I'm going to divide 8 by 4, and I'm going to divide this whole fraction by 4. All right, now this 4 and this 4 are going to divide each other out, so that's just like 1. Remember, dividing by 4 is the same as multiplying by 1/4. So if I were to put a little multiply sign here and a 1/4, same thing would happen. Those 4's would divide out. So what would remain would be the x plus 3, because the 4 is not there anymore, all divided by 5, and on the right side, the 8 divided by 4 is going to equal 2. Okay, let's continue working backwards in our list. We had divide by 5. Well, the inverse of that would be to multiply both sides by 5. So I'm going to multiply both sides of this equation by 5. You might want to put it by 5 over 1 on the left side, since it is a fraction, to show that these 5's will divide out. Okay, I'm going to continue up here where I have some more space. So since my 5's divided out, all I have on the left side is x plus 3. And I don't need the parentheses anymore because there's nothing outside the parentheses telling me I have to distribute. And on the right side, I have 10 for 2 times 5. Okay, let's go back to our list where we're working backwards. It says I'm going to add 3. Well, the inverse operation of adding 3 would be to subtract 3. So I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. And I end up with x equals 7. Now, again, are there other ways to solve this equation? Of course there are. Do you have to do it in the order that I did it? Not necessarily. Some of you still might have wanted to distribute the 4 right here. And of course you could definitely do that. You're still going to find, though, that you're going to get the same answer, x equals 7. So what we're trying to do here is show you that if you can understand how the equation was built, then you can definitely understand how to break the equation down and how to get back to your solution.